עוזר לכם, צה"ל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צה"ל שוב מכה בכם. כשעסקנו בתפילה, חציתם את התעלה, כשעליתם שוב בהר, לא חשבתם על מחר. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צה"ל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צה"ל שוב מכה בכם. אין מנוס ואין מפלט, אין לכם פשוט ברירה, אין תקווה ואין מקלט, אין כבר דרך חזרה. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צה"ל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צה"ל שוב מכה בכם. ברמה ובמדבר, באמצע יום הכיפורים, באתם בתרועת שופר, אך יצאתם בשברים. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צה"ל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צה"ל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צה"ל שוב מכה בכם.
Were you surprised to see Syrian tanks so close to your unit?
Well, no, that was a surprise because they surprised us because we were not ready for the fight, but because it was a holiday for us. Otherwise, we wouldn't make a surprise like they did today.
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались з кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страны.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар. Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 627 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again on the best night of the week. It is the Sunday fundraiser.
Yeah! And of course, it is the Sunday fundraiser of the week. We missed the last one for the first time in channel history ever. Now we are going to be going all out tonight. We've already passed $1,000 for the Sunday fundraiser. And the fundraiser is for Razum For Ukraine, an amazing nonprofit that has been working really hard inside of Ukraine for years to provide humanitarian aid, assistance, food, medical supplies, you name it, they provide it. We have a link in the description below to their website where you can go and learn everything you want to know about Razum, but they are the fundraiser goal for the night. We have a goal of $5,000. We already passed over $1,000 in the first 10 minutes. We are going to blow this thing out of the water. We also have to make up as the Leaf Spring Army for the fundraiser we missed last Sunday. So make sure to blow this thing out of the water, because not only is it a matter of pride for the Leaf Spring Army to always pass the fundraiser goal excessively, it also is a massive help to the Ukrainian people and helps to save lives over there thousands of miles away from us in a war that's still going on as voraciously as it was in those first opening days, where people around the world put in tens of millions of dollars to try and help save the lives of people in Ukraine. We're going to be going through the news tonight almost entirely about Ukraine. There is some news and some big goings-on inside of the Middle East, but that's going to be a smaller news segment towards the end of the night tonight. We're going to be moving back towards our original form, which is really just covering the Ukraine war news, because there have been some huge developments down in the area around the Dnipro River, around Oleski and Kherson, and from what we've heard today, it is clear the Ukrainians are opening up a brand new front line in that area. Before we do that, though, let me go pull up on my second screen my stream. Not trying to make everything rhyme right there. So that way I can see how much we've raised. Because right now, we're at $1.24 thousand raised already. Can we hit $5,000 before the hour is out? That's what I want to see tonight. I want to see this fundraiser hit $5,000 before we're even done with the first hour of the stream tonight. But let's get on into the news, where we have heard, apparently from the information that's coming out from the War Gonzo, that there is a pretty decent advance by Ukrainian forces, and there are indications that the Ukrainians have moved out of Krinky, and they've taken the M14 Highway already today. We have not been able to confirm this information, but we're assuming that the M14 Highway area that has been taken is right around this bend, right here in this forested area. This is the M14 Highway that famously stretches all the way from Kherson to Melitopol. If the Ukrainians were able to take this highway, it is entirely possible that they may be able to move across armored forces here in the next few days, and they'll be able to further expand the Ukrainian holdings in this area towards the directions of Novikhovka and Oleski, completely outflanking the Russian garrisons that find themselves at those gates to the rest of southern Kherson. And it may be entirely true that we'll see a large Ukrainian front opening in this area within the next few days. It is huge news, and going into the War Gonzo report, this is what we were hearing at the moment. Kherson, Crimean Direction. This sector of the front has become one of the priorities for the Ukrainian armed forces in terms of offensive actions. Ukrainian troops managed to gain a foothold on the left bank of the Dnipro River in Krinky, and the Russian armed forces cannot dislodge them from there. Serious attacks by Ukrainian armed forces from the islands near Poima, Pischany, and Podstepnoy, Ukrainian troops breaking through to the M14 Highway, which is a road. And I'd like to thank War Gonzo for pointing out that the M14 is a road, otherwise many people may have been lost. It's like saying the I-59 is an interstate. The loss of control over the area in the Poima area, where it intersects with the M17 highway, will become an extremely serious problem for the Russian armed forces, since this is the logistics of the garrison in Kakhovka. The garrison in Kakhovka, right up here, the highway about right here may be in trouble, especially if the Ukrainians take the M14 in this area. They may just start to drive down it, and considering that there's a small amount of Russian forces in the area, and they probably won't get overrun really quickly if the Ukrainians start to just move down the highway, because there's not really a lot of them there, it is entirely possible that the entire Russian garrison at Novikhovka may already be in jeopardy of encirclement at this moment, much like the War Gonzo is stating. The M17 highway, this is a logistics garrison in Kakhovka. So far, the Ukrainian armed forces have partially created it at Krinuk. And to show y'all where Krinuk is, and let me go show y'all exactly where Krinuk is, which it's not showing up because apparently that's now in Greece, so I won't be able to show y'all exactly where Krinuk is. The islands in the Dnipro Delta are dominated by Ukrainian troops. More or less stable bridgeheads have been created on the left bank of the main riverbed from Kherson to Tyaginka. And this is a front width of 35 kilometers. Probably one of the largest front lines we've ever seen being created at this phase of the war, especially since this is a year after the city of Kherson was liberated on the right bank of the Dnipro River, literally exactly a year ago to the day, on the 11th of November. Let's see, and this is a front. The Ukrainian armed forces cannon and rocket artillery are actively operating. Its fire is adjusting by unlimited drone usage. Attack helicopters are also in action. So according to the War Gonzo, things are going very poorly for the Russian forces at the moment, and it does seem as though the Ukrainians currently have the element of surprise, or at least the element of numbers going in their favor, and this is putting the Russian forces completely on bad terms at the very beginning of this defensive operation on the other side of the river. We can also hear that Ukraine is opening up a new front, according to the Kyiv Independent. This was stated clearly today, as the Ukrainian forces have reportedly stepped up their attacks on Russian positions to try and secure a beachhead and bring heavy armor into the fight, meaning main battle tanks. Assaults on the eastern bank could mean Ukraine is getting closer to opening a new front in the south. This is once again backing up, and Kyiv Independent is a very credible source on the war. They're not just any source, they are usually the source on the war. And so if they're saying that a new front is being created in this area, we can say with some relative certainty that it's certainly being made in this area as we speak. The indication by everybody that heavy armor has not been brought in yet, but the Ukrainians are setting up bridgeheads to do such a thing, is also telling us that the Ukrainians aren't looking at this as a simple distraction this time from the southern front near the area of Robotny. This is the front line. Heavy armor is a massive logistical addition to any frontline area, especially ones that do not have it at the moment, like Kherson. And if we see that the Ukrainians start to move across T64s, T72s, and other kinds of main battle tanks in their inventory to use against the Russians, not only does that bring the tanks across the river, that takes logistical groups, mechanical groups, that takes all of the supplies to run the tanks, the fuel. It's a massive logistical undertaking. And for that kind of cost to be brought forward by the Ukrainians to try and conduct operations in this area, it shows that they have much larger ambitions than what we're seeing at the moment right now. It's huge. I can't even go out of my way to say how huge of an implication it is that everybody is on the same page, that they are going to be bringing armored forces across the river. That means that this is going to be a new front line. This is going to be a new front. Hopefully, and I'm saying this kind of, it's not in a similar historical vein, it's just kind of like with how the front's opening. This is somewhat similar to the Gallipoli campaign of World War I, where the British opened up a brand new front on the very doorstep of the capital of the Ottoman Empire. It's very similar to that. Hopefully it will not be as disastrous, because the Gallipoli campaign was an unmitigated disaster, but nevertheless, the way the front is being opened, it's very similar, with Ukrainian forces just landing there, creating a beachhead, and hoping to run like hell further inland. Meanwhile, near the area of Radinsk, we also heard that some SPGs of the Russian army are getting destroyed well behind the lines. We don't know if this indicates that the Ukrainians have started to bring artillery across the river and operated them in the marsh, which would be highly unlikely, but these are starting to get hit a little bit behind the lines. Here's the clip. We're going to be muting that interesting music. But we can also see the SPG down there on the street. Man, I gotta tell you, this camera is shakier than me. Like, I'm pretty shaky.
Man, they'd be getting a little bit nervous out here holding this camera.
Dude, oh! I was about to try and set up a joke, but the biggest joke is the way that SPG just got knocked out. That thing just got slammed. We need someone in the background yelling, "World Star!" or something like that, because that thing just got slammed.
Man, I gotta say, they're like those people when they're trying to film something like a car crash happening, and they turn the camera and don't catch the crash, and then they turn it right back after it's over. Like, look, it's like, dude, we need to see the whole thing.
You know what this camera work is really like? It's like that kid in middle school who's trying to film the fight, but he's never held a camera in his damn life, and he never films the actual fight. It's just the floor, and you just hear a bunch of, you know, stuff like that in the background, but you don't actually see what's going on. But we can see,
at least they're in horizontal, at least.
That's true. At least they've got it in horizontal, not vertical. We can see the SPG sitting in the street, smoking, but it ain't smoking that pack of Newports. This thing is smoking a pack of It's Over.
Man, the Ukrainians are always smoking that Russian pack.
Man, they are. They are smoking that brand new pack. Camels? Also, by the way, someone did point out, and I just noticed this, either the dating is off, because this footage did come out today, or it is from several months ago. One or the other. Nevertheless, it is nice to see a little SPG getting crisped in this area. We can see the SPG continuing to smoke as vehicles drive by haphazardly. It is a bit of a safety problem, but nobody seems to care. It's kind of like the normal Russian thing. What the hell is that? Was that like, I don't know.
It looked like a duck. Dude. It looked like a duck, like doing its head over the camera.
Quack, quack. That looks like a seagull. Oh, that's weird. I don't know what the hell was up with
that
that.
big Boyd.
Man, I'm the biggest bird. I'm the biggest bird. But we can see here the SPG continuing to smoke. And somebody said, looking windy. And it does look windy. Can you believe this fundraiser, Matthew, has made it all the way up to $2,300 already? That is
It's
fast.
crazy. We've only been streaming for what, 10 or 15 minutes now? It's already up to 2.2. It's almost halfway there.
Oh, we're halfway there. Oh, that was terrible.
Damn.
But when you see the SPG continuing to burn, continuing to roast, much like that fundraiser better be roasting. Come on, LSA, we can do it. And we can see the SPG continuing to boing. Man, look at that thing. It's just down there. I mean, it's not really exploding or anything. It's just kind of sitting there menacingly. What do you see, Patrick? He's standing there menacingly. But when you see another truck driving by the SPG that's burning in the street, and it appears that it never really blew up, it just kind of burned out. Regardless, it's still an SPG lost, whether it be a few months ago, whether it be today, it's an SPG lost. We've got to count our blessings when we get them.
People always tell us that burnout's a real thing, but for the Russians, it's a whole different type. Russian burnout, that's a real thing.
Man, Russian burnout is next level, man. Like, Russian burnout is a mixture of vodka and actually being on fire. It's a terrible kind of burnout. It's probably the worst in the world. But moving on from that, the Russians have continued to mercilessly bombard the city of Kherson, which does have hundreds of thousands of people living in it, and that's been that way the entirety of the war, all 2 years. No one was ever really able to leave Kherson, and so this place is being just hammered by Russian artillery. And we could see that they were hitting one of the city libraries today, and of course caused a pretty significant amount of damage to the building after the shelling ended. It's terrible to see this kind of stuff, and it's terrible to think that the war continues to have a persistent effect against the civilians who've been living in Kherson, the ones who never had a chance to leave the war, and have practically had to live on the front lines, either in Russian occupation or under Ukrainian control for nearly 2 years at this point. And it's people like those that we are running a fundraiser for tonight. These people get a lot of support and a lot of help from the people from Razum. Razum not only has helped them out medically and with foodstuffs, they were also there during the floods that occurred in June of this year when the Russians blew up the Novikakhovka Dam and were helping to evacuate people from floodplains. The kind of help that Razum for Ukraine gives is absolutely incredible, and I highly recommend and I highly encourage that if you consider yourself to be a member of the Lee Spring Army, if you're even just watching this show, whether you are a Lee Spring Army member or not, to support that fundraiser and to blow it up, because every dollar of support that's given to Razum is helping to save these people's lives and help to give them a better situation to live in here in places like the city of Kherson. Moving on from that and into our next little bit of news, we did get to see some Ukrainian boats on patrol in the Dniprovska Gulf, and one of them looked like a little small island. It was pretty cool. Here's the clip. And we're going to be muting that, but there's the little island up there, and I gotta say, it does look a little islandy. I wonder, Matthew, are the guys in this boat, considering the boat kind of looks like an island, are they called island boys?
You just island boy.
I just said island boy. Oh man, y'all broke. You might want to start selling this glass you got on your arms. Man, get the hell out of here. And then they get up and walk off. But anyways, really nice to see. I thought it was cool to see the Ukrainians are starting to make their boats look like small islands. And I gotta say, that's no island. But anyways, moving on from that and into our next little bit of news near Odessa, we got to see some MiG-29s flying over the coastline, which was just cool to see. Like, do I have to have a reason to show y'all something, or can it just be cool? Because these are just really neat little pictures right here. This is a Ukrainian MiG-29 in winter camouflage flying over some cloud cover here on the southern coast of Ukraine. It's absolutely beautiful. Here in the next picture, we can also see another MiG-29. It appears to be the same one, flying over the coastline with some R-73 missiles attached to it. It appears to be doing an anti-missile run, if there is such a thing as that. And then in the last picture, we get to see that it only has 2 R-73s attached to the plane, meaning that it doesn't have its full loadout. A MiG-29 can actually carry around 6 R-73 missiles, or 4 R-73s and then 2 R-27s, whatever you want to do. But nevertheless, it's not carrying its full loadout, but it is nice to see these things flying over the coastline and making sure to take care of anything that may be coming Odessa's way. Speaking of Odessa's way, there is nothing that has been done Gary's, well, I'm trying to figure out how to make this joke work because Gary's way ain't gonna cut it for this joke. The Ukrainian,
Gary's way.
you know, like in SpongeBob, serving it up
Oh.
Gary's way. But
I was like, who the hell's Gary, and why is he having his way?
that's it, man. Gary always gets his way. But anyways, moving on from that, which made no sense still, we're just going to get into the news because there's no way for me to transition into this while we got a little montage of all the successful naval strikes that the Ukrainians have been able to conduct, their exact locations, when they happened, and what kind of damage was caused. And I gotta say that this is a very nice and well put together little infographic right here. It shows the radius from the Ukrainian coast out to 600 kilometers. Pretty far distance. But what's more important about this distance is all of the ships that have been hit within a 600 kilometer range. Just the other day, 2 Cerna-class landing craft were destroyed right off the coast of Crimea near Chornomorsk. We actually didn't really get to cover that much here. We more so covered the attacks that occurred inside of the port of Sevastopol. But nevertheless, you could see all the ships that have been hit by Ukrainian drones across the entirety of the campaign and theater. And I gotta say, it is very juicy and very nice to see all of this put together on a little infographic like this. Just really neat. Anyways, someone said it is too small to read, and I'd agree. But I just wanted to show it to y'all because I thought it was cool, and I liked the effort that this person put into it. But moving on from that, and into the next bit of news, a little bit further out of the area of the, I guess you could say, the coastline of Ukraine, it's now time for us to move on into the bigger news going on in our location unknowns. Because our location unknowns tonight are all juice. And I mean it. I'm not even kidding. It's just straight up raw juice. Like we're talking about that juice row, put $300 million inside of a juicer and then it never actually releases kind of juice. We've got some good stuff in here. And starting over our first clip, we got to see a Russian soldier walking home. And the Ukrainians got a really close look at this guy and just let him walk on home. Like that's the whole clip. But we can see the drone flying over the Russian. We can see the Russian with his little bag and stick. And he's going, I don't know what to do.
Oh, jeez. What did he just say? Did he just wave to the drone?
Yeah, he did. He's like, I'm going home. Goodbye, everyone. And then the drone's like, oh, okay. So they let him go.
Man, I like the caption. It says, Ukrainian army recon team spotted Russian soldier who decided to start walking home, yet he will live.
That's it, dude. It just says, he will live. Ukrainian flag, sunflower. It's like the sunflower, though, has opposite connotations to life, you know, at this point. It's almost like the flower of death, you know? Like, but anyways, he did live.
It's kind of like the, he will live, maybe.
Perhaps. But I gotta say, nice to see that they let one go. But with that, we're going to be moving on into our next clip. That was, of course, unadmittedly juice. We were moving on into the next one, and this one really is juice. It is 5 minutes of a Ukrainian Su-25 in operation. And I'm going to be taking this time, while we watch this Ukrainian Su-25 in operation, to ask y'all, have y'all supported the fundraiser tonight for Razum For Ukraine? I know I'm saying that a lot, but the fundraisers, they do mean much, and they do help out a lot of people. The Lee Spring Army.
Well, did you know that the fundraiser is sitting at $2,525,000 of the $5,000 goal? Did you hear that?
Man, I just heard that right now, and I gotta say, that is absolutely incredible stuff. Can we get it even higher? Can we get it to 4? I'm wondering, can we? We're not calling up a general order yet, because, you know, we gotta make sure that we're a little bit closer to the top before we call that. But let's try and set ourselves up to get a general order ready to go. Oh, dang, they got the smooth jazz playing. Man, they getting jiggy with it up in here. And we can see them showing a little cinematic here of this Su-25, which does look unequivocally bussin'.
That look is a shark fighting off an eagle. Man, that eagle is humongous.
Man, squaw! And also, Trister just threw in a hundo. Damn!
Hey, welcome back, Trister.
And also, yeah, welcome back, Trister. I just realized. I was like, hey, Trister hasn't been here for a bit. But we can see the Su-25 flying with a MiG-29 escort. That is really neat. Flying gently over the fields of Ukraine.
You know, some people criticize, like, some of these jets will have, like, a little bit of yellow on them and stuff. It really is camouflage for the area because the fields are yellow. Like the national colors of Ukraine are actually the colors somewhere on the ground.
I mean, that's true. That's true.
Except for the blue, obviously, but that's the sky.
Man, look at that. They just cruising. They're cruising in a pretty close formation, too. That's something.
Oh, wow, they've been cruising for a while. It got dark.
Oh,
they're doing the helicopter trick.
Firing off the roqueta. I love to see it. And we now see the SU-25 conducting a left bank and popping off the chaff. Well, the chaff and the flares. You can't really see the chaff, and a lot of people are always telling me it's just flares. The thing is, though, you're never really going to see the chaff because the chaff are literally just little metallic bits that are thrown out of the back of the plane. They don't really create like a very easily visible cloud of anything. So it's probably popping off chaff and flares because surface-to-air missile batteries are not just infrared. They are usually radar guided, so it's a little bit more important to have chaff than the flares, but, you know, y'all get the point. Anyways, we can see them. Dang, dude, look at the stress load on the wings when it just pulled that lift. Look at that. The wings are like physically shaking. That was something.
Man, you know if the wings aren't shaking, that thing's about to fall apart. That's a good thing they're shaking.
Oh, yeah. You got to have that little bit of wing flex.
This is a strange view looking from this angle. It's kind of dirty under that wing.
Man, it is kind of doity. I'm not going to lie. They got a little bit of oils, essential oils on this thing.
Not that the Ukrainians are going to be out there like polishing their jets during the war or anything, but, you know, it's a little bit, you know, a little bit dirty.
Man, I got to tell you, man, if an American jet looked like this, we would be in bad shape. Rip to the 5 guys who did die in the training accident, though. We will be getting to that a little bit later on. I mean, that was like complete whiplash right there, but that made me start thinking about that. Anyways, we can see that the SU-25 has been accompanied by another SU-25, still escorted by a MiG-29. We now see the MiG-29 is taking the lead. It almost looks like they're just floating.
It does. They barely have any, like, thrust applied or anything. There's hardly any, like, color out of the engines.
And we see them just gliding on along. I don't know what it is, but this field down here looks like the savannah in Africa where they show you, like, the elephants. And they're like, these elephants are the last 100 living in the wild. You know, it's almost like a field like that. I don't know why. It's weird. Anyways, we can see them lifting up and firing off their next salvo of rockets. And
I feel like that field we just looked at, it's like where Simba might pop up or something like that.
Simba, you are the chosen one, or whatever he said. And then, oh my God! Oh!
What was that?
This
a helo.
This is a Federal Aviation Administration nightmare right here. This is like an OSHA violation of the sky. I've never seen a jet get that close to a helicopter on film before. Goodness.
He kind of did a little like a hump over it a little bit.
Oh, and there's another one. Oh my Lord, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Surely that wasn't planned, I would imagine.
Hopefully not. it's hopefully not. And now you see them doing some...
look, a neighborhood.
Oh, look, a salvo. It's right over the neighborhood.
That's what little Timmy said when he looked out his window. He said, look, Ma, a salvo above our house.
Dude, when you get that one guy who's dyslexic and he's trying to work on the farm, hi, Ma, put the grain in the salvo. Man, for the Ukrainians, that's a dyslexic guy. For the Russians, that's an actual target of war. But anyways, we can see the Su-25s continuing to fly over the fields.
Do the Ukrainians ever really get in dogfights with Russian jets? Because I don't think they really have a ton of proper fighters. Because these things right here are more like not really about fighter jets, are they?
Oh, they're ground attack planes. These things would hardly do well at all in any kind of a dogfight. And
it seems like because Ukraine's like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and to answer the question that I didn't answer a second ago, no, they don't really have a lot of dogfighters. Like the MiG-29s and the SU-27s can dogfight, but if we're talking about SU-25s, which are the ones conducting the ground support missions, they can't dogfight hardly at all.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed. Like, you hardly ever see dogfights, even with Ukraine's jets that they do have that can dogfight. Like, you rarely ever see it.
Well, it would be pretty tough to see. Oh, look, they got a... Oh, look at that! Hey, that's pretty cool. They got a little bit. They got a little bit of Israeli-Ukrainian support up here at the end of the video. Look at that! Got a little Star David in the trident. Isn't that neat? That's pretty cool. I gotta admit, pretty nice, pretty nice. Because we're gonna be covering that here after the Ukraine war segment. But tonight we're taking our time on the Ukraine war segment, so y'all are in the right place if you're looking for that kind of news. But moving on from that, we also got to see a Ukrainian collected up some Russian helmets. Vadim, where'd you get the Russian helmets? We don't want to know the answer to that question, but we can see he's got a nice collection of them, and they're pretty nice. A lot of different ones, a lot of variety. Gotta say, pretty nice.
He's very happy fella too. You can tell by the look on his face. He's a very jolly fella. He's not at all upset. He's turning that frown upside down. You know what I mean?
Man, he needs to go and get a tan though, because that guy is very pale. I mean, this guy is so pale. But anyways, moving on from that a little bit and on into our next one, we also got a report from the British Ministry of Defense. And by the way, I just want to ask, have you all supported the fundraiser tonight? We are exactly at $3,000.
Hey, let's go!
If we can reach $3,500, I will call up a general order, and I will throw in even more support. So, get it up to 3.5. We gotta get this thing on up there. That's the whole purpose of tonight's stream, is to get this fundraiser on into space. So please make sure to help it out, because it means a lot to me, and considering that we missed last week's Sunday fundraiser, I don't want this one to, not do well. But anyways, as of late October of 2023, large elements of the Wagner Group private military company had likely been assimilated into the command structure of Russia's National Guard, aka the Rosguardia, and resumed active recruitment. This Wagner arm under Rosguardia is likely led by Pavel Prigozhin, son of the late Wagner owner Yevgeny Prigozhin. Other groups...
My boy with the fur.
Man, my boy out there with the fleece, and he's getting fleeced by the guys in the unit for sure. Other groups of Wagner fighters have highly likely joined another Russian PMC, Redut, which according to a Radio Free Europe investigation now has 7,000 personnel in total. On the 1st of November...
I thought that Russia didn't have any more PMCs. I thought they said they were illegal and they didn't exist.
Hush, Matthew, hush. You're breaking the logic.
Yeah, that was a secret.
Man, you're breaking logic of the Russian government, man. It's rules for thee, not for me. On the 1st of November, Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov, we're starting off on a good note with this little bullet, stated that Wagner Group medics had joined Chechen Akhmat Special Forces. Previously, on the 25th of October, Kadyrov had stated that 170 former Wagner fighters had already joined the Akhmat, and we all know the Akhmat's power. The Russian state is now exercising more direct control over the Wagner Group activities and former personnel following the mutiny in July 2023 and the subsequent death of the Wagner's leadership the next month, which was not weird or odd at all. But anyways, we can see here that according to the British, the Wagner guys, they're spreading out a little bit, but they're still there, and they're still trying to operate in some way, shape, or form. You got to remember, they were the right arm of the Russian government outside of Russia officially. So, the Russians have an vested interest in trying to keep something around like it for some while. By the way, we've gotten up to nearly $3,300. We've gotten up to $3,242. I gotta ask, we getting up to 3.5 yet? I hope we are. I'm not pressuring anybody, but I kind of am, because it's a fundraiser and it helps to save lives. But, with that, we're now moving on into the Russian CASY report, because the report today was juicy. Matthew.
Oh my goodness. They got another 9 Bobcats. Come on, man. Come on, Jack. Where'd they get these from? China? Anyways. But seriously, though, like, these numbers are staying incredibly high. 1,100 troops in a day. And look at all these vehicles, too.
Damn, man, look at that. I mean, would you? I didn't even expect you to start moving on in that category. I thought you were just going to talk about Bobcats. It is impressive in every category. 9 Bobcat skid steers knocked out. Very nice number. 1,100 Russian soldiers taken out again today. And they're not being taken out for dates, y'all. They're being taken out to sleep. But 32 armored personnel carriers were also destroyed, along with 19 supply trucks, 7 main battle tanks, 32 artillery pieces, 12 drones, 2 MLRSs, 1 cruise missile, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system. Overall, it's been a damn good day. It's been a damn good week, really. I mean, the losses
It's almost like the Ukrainians are out here trying to win or something, and the Russians are losing terribly. Oh man, I'm telling you, it's like the Ukrainians are out here, killing it, Jerry, killing it.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. I tried to run a tank the other day, and then they ran a tank on me. Oh man, I'm telling you. But anyways,
what the hell?
The Russian losses have been incredibly high, unbelievably high for about the entirety of the week. And I gotta say, it's another good day. And I've seen Damon Great say, wow day, and I gotta agree, it is certainly a wow day. And so, with that, we're now moving on from that little casualty report right there. It was a good one, I'll admit. And we're now about to be moving on into the rest of the frontline news here in Ukraine. But I was looking at that fundraiser because y'all know I have a Hawkeye on that fundraiser tonight. I am obsessed with it. And we have hit $3,402, which is close enough, in my opinion, at 3.5. Oh, wait, we just passed 3.5. Thank you, Tristan, for throwing in another hundo. Tristan, killing it! Killing it, Tristan! And it's time. It is time to try and get to that $5,000. That elusive $5,000. We have to hit it. It is time, Matthew. And you know what I'm talking about. It is time for that General Order. It is time for us to hit. It is time for us to hit that General Order, and we are going to be throwing in everything we've got. If you've got a kitchen sink, throw it at your computer. Don't do that. And I did not tell you to do that. But
don't throw it.
Don't do it. Don't do that at all. But if you have $5 to throw it in right now. General Order number 25 is now in effect. I'm going to be throwing in a whole 20. Because 20 is a lot. $20 is $20. But if you have $5 minimum to throw into this fundraiser, throw it in now. And this General Order is not stopping until we hit $5,000. No cap. I'm not even lying. Unequivocally, unexquisitely busting. We got to hit $5,000. That's the goal for the night. It helps to save loads of lives. General Order number 25 is now entirely in effect. We're now going to be moving on while that General Order kills it. And it looks like it's starting. Oh, it's starting to roll.
Killing it. Look at it go.
But with that, we're going to be allowing the General Order some time and some space to breathe. And it's really starting to breathe. And we're now about to be moving on.
7,000 already. Let's go.
Man, I'm telling you what, man. We about to hit it. But moving on from that and on into the northeastern area while we wait to see the General Order blow the fundraiser over $5,000, it is now time for us to move on into the northeastern area of the front lines. Starting off with our first bit of news, some Russian forces getting hit by the 41st Separate Mechanized Brigade. The date? Unknown. The damage? Known. Check it out. Ooh! When you see the bomb hitting her in the back of the truck. And we can see Russians running out of the back of the truck. They are literally pouring out of the back of the truck. Another bomb was dropped, which took out about half of them. And that's the end of the clip. But we can tell that the little 41st Separate Mechanized Brigade did some damage to those Russians. They were pouring out of the back of that truck like some kind of a bad Squid Game. But moving on from that and into our next clip, we also get to see some pictures of a Ukrainian T64 BV that's in this area of the line, while Hal Rose throws in a 200 and absolutely slaughters. Let's get it.
We're up to 4.2 thousand. Let's go.
Oh baby, we were up $700 from where we started. We only have about $800 left, maybe a little less than that. It is actually a little bit more than that. It's about 4.85 thousand. Well, actually, $850 or so. I'm terrible at math, but we gotta get to $5,000. We gotta do it. And the General Order, it's gotta get there. So make sure if you have $5 to throw in, you gotta throw it in. But moving on from that, we can see this T64 BV right here. It's looking quite nice. It's looking good and juicy. Love to see it. And we can see it right here driving through the fields of northern Ukraine. It's an absolutely beautiful sight while John Albrecht throws in 100, killing it! And, of course, we love to see the Ukrainian tanks in action. They're pretty nice looking, pretty decent upgrades of older Soviet models, and hopefully they are still standing up on the battlefield like they always have been. But moving on from that in the northeastern area, because we didn't really get much more news than that, we're now going to be moving on down into the area of Torske, where we got to see some Ukrainian soldiers unloading a Humvee with a dog assistant. And we can hear the blog music playing. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the front lines. We're unloading the Humvee. And we see them taking out a lamp. Aladdin's lamp? No, it's just a lamp. It looks a little like Aladdin's lamp. And that's the end of the clip.
Man, that was like an epic montage, slow motion and everything. I'm not really even sure what was happening.
Me either. I was completely confused the whole time. I mean, something was happening.
Something epic was going on, but I couldn't tell.
Man, I gotta tell you, man. I mean, I have no idea, but that was what was happening near the Crimean Forest today. So we'll take it for what it is, you know? But anyways, moving on from that and down into the area of Bakhmut, we also got to see a crab at work, and it was giving out crabs. That joke never gets old, does it? And we're only $600 away from the goal. Now that doesn't get old. Let's try and hit it soon. Can we have some more heavy hitters in here tonight? We need the sluggers, Matthew. I mean, we need the big sluggers. Where in the world?
We need those people from Louisville, the sluggers.
Man, we need those guys down from, let's see. Who in the hell are the people who were slugging? The Twisted Tea people. Well, you're thinking about Montgomery, but I was thinking about trying to come up with some other memes. But if we can have those folks coming around here and slugging this fundraiser on up to the goal, I would be very happy to see it. Hell, why can't we have a Glory Days fundraiser? Why can't we pass 10K? I'm not going to raise the goal to that because I don't know if we can or can't, but let's at least pass 5K first. Anyways, excuse me, we got some inspirational music here. We can see them getting the crab loaded. And I gotta tell you, the crabs from The Little Mermaid have certainly had some big changes. And we can see Trista 1 answering the call for a slugger. He's throwing it in!
Daggone!
Look at him go! Man, if we can't count on nobody, we can count on Trista. And we can count on BC Skyman. And we can count on a couple of others of y'all. But Matthew's got the whole list, and we'll probably be calling y'all out in a bit.
Man, look at that guy sitting up there on that chair like that. He's like hanging off the edge of it.
Man, that's the way I sit in my gaming chair when I'm really in a game, you know? That's how I sit. Exactly like that.
Man, you know his butt's gonna be sore after sitting on that chair for like a few hours. He's gonna be getting up talking about, I can walk.
But you know the absolute worst chairs in the world? Law school chairs. The worst.
Oh yeah, the solid wood chair, like no padding, nothing.
Yeah, you know, they sit there and go, hey guys, you know how we can really make the law school kids feel like spending like $250,000 a year? You know how we can make it feel like it's worth their money? What? Let's give them the most uncomfortable chairs in the entire university. Yeah, that's a great idea. It's like, no, it's not. It's not. It's a terrible idea. I have scoliosis. My back is hurting after like an hour of sitting in these chairs. Are y'all crazy? Like, that's why, Matthew, people can't pass the bar. It's not anything about it being difficult. It's just the chairs are so uncomfortable they can't focus. But anyways, that's the end of the clip from inside the crowd. And now Rose thrown in the 333! Man, let's get it!
Man, we are $20 above goal.
We are $20 above that goal. We did it. And we killed it. And I got to say, I got to thank everybody for helping this fundraiser to get to where it is tonight. We just passed $5,000, and that's all we have to do to meet the bare minimum. The Lee Spring Army represents the set again, undefeated for weeks, or literally 2 years at this point, nearly. I got to say, absolutely incredible, and I got to thank every single one of you all for being a part of this tonight, and of course, helping this fundraiser to get to the goal it was supposed to be at. I would like to give a huge shout out to Hal Rose, who threw in that 333 that took it right over the top there at the last minute. And of course, y'all all know, the fundraiser is not over. You can continue to donate and support the fundraiser if you want, and it helps to save lives. Come on, y'all. Zelensky is asking for money. why not give some to Razum, damn it? But anyways, moving on from that, and out of the Bakhmut area, it's now time for us to move on down to Avdiivka, where the real meat of the Russian losses were being made today. And we got to see today that near Krasnoarivka, a Russian tank column was hit quite nicely. And do I sound hype enough for all of y'all tonight? I'm just wondering. But we can see the drone flying on into the column. And we see that drone hitting the back of that tank. And I gotta tell you, man, it hit different. But anyways, moving on from that little clip and down towards the area of Opitne, we found out in this clip that the 47th Magura has been moved from Robotne and into Avdiivka to affect the city's defense. So here's the clip. And we're going to be muting the music because YouTube is on a copyright crusade. It does not matter for our channel's monetization because we don't run ads on our streams, but it does matter that ads will run. And that's something that we want to try and avoid completely for y'all when y'all click on a stream, is for an ad to run. That's like the worst thing that can happen to one of our streams, and it annoys the hell out of us when it happens. But I'll show y'all this. Let me show y'all this. Because this has been something that's really bothered me, is how, like, we have literally been getting crusaded against by YouTube lately. You can see that every single one of them, except for this one, somehow it survived not having something happen to it. But every other one of them has been copyrighted or age restricted. Like, it's almost completely out of our control at this point. So, you know, if you want to, you know, help out a little bit. I don't really know how y'all would help out in that regard, but, you know, it's something that really annoys us a great deal, and that's also why we go out our way to mute music like that, because now we're getting hit from YouTube for literally anything. And it's really started to pick up since we've begun to cover the Israel news. YouTube seems to have it out for our channel now that we've begun to cover Israel. They don't really like our take on it, I'm guessing, so now they're really starting to go after our channel. So, you know, if you want to help us out, make sure to spread the news of the channel around to your friends, to your family. You know, make sure to, you know, like, do anything you can to support the channel, because, you know, YouTube kind of has it out for us now with how we run the channel. But we can see that the 47th is slamming some Russian tanks. And people are saying, why bother?
that logo up there in the top right corner, I just got a good look at that one, and I'm telling you, it's giving me some bad flashbacks, I'm telling you.
Geschickt verlangt mir den Deutschen Wolken in der Schulz. But anyways.
You know, when an eagle has its arms out a little too straight at the top, it's like, what's going on?
Man, that eagle up there, it'd be going, Zeke! And you'd be going, no! It's like, stop! But anyways, that's the end of that clip. Great to see the 47th Brigade doing its thing. And I love to see all of the support in the live chat for YouTube. We all love YouTube. We love them so much. But moving on from that, great to see the 47th doing its thing, of course. And we're now going to be moving on from that little bit of news and into our next clip around Avdiivka, where we got to see the 30th Brigade conducting a little attack. You know, we used to, back in the day, not really give a lot of crap to YouTube and, you know, go, it's a business and all that stuff, so they do their thing. But at this point, like, with how we've been treated by YouTube, I'm not honestly that much of a big fan of them, you know, on the company operation side of things anymore, especially with how they'll just arbitrarily, like, do things like age restrict videos. I'm honestly not a big fan of that. I'm just gonna level with y'all. And, you know, it also makes it very hard for us to cover news because I have to try and consider, are they going to age restrict our stuff, although it's stuff we've been showing for 2 years. And also there's some other things at play. There's, you know, people who, like, serially report everything this channel ever uploads, and then, you know, YouTube reviews everything of ours because of that. But, you know, that's a whole...
YouTube goes out of their way to do stuff like that. But I guarantee you, RooTube wouldn't do anything like that. You know, RooTube's a pretty strong competitor to YouTube. It's the new place for free speech, you know.
Oh, yeah. And then everyone...
Yeah, totally.
And then everyone in the live chat's about to say, what about Rumble? No, I'm not going to Rumble. Rumble is the same thing as YouTube. It's just in the opposite direction. I just want a video uploading platform. Do y'all remember back when YouTube used to just be about video uploading, like in the early 2010s, and they didn't really get involved in anything else? I remember that. it was a nice time because you could really find anything you wanted on YouTube. But you know, nowadays it's not really the same. But we're still here. I mean, that's got to speak for something. But a nice little attack right there from the 30th Brigade. Wonderful to see. And hopefully they can, you know, keep doing their thing. And with that, we're going to be moving on. Also, another thing I'm seeing, some people are like, you know, oh, YouTube needs free speech. I don't know. Like, you know, like the free speech thing, I have seen platforms that do the free speech thing. I got to be honest with y'all, usually it just does devolve into degeneracy because, you know, the free speech people are like, you know, let everything go. And then everything ends up just being the absolute worst. And then it just runs off everything else from the platform because no one wants to be associated with it. Tumblr. And then, you know, they get rid of it and then those people spread around, you know, across the internet. But, you know, I don't know. I mean, there's got to be some kind of a medium where there's a little bit of control, but not as much as there is in both directions. It's just not great. But anyways,
it's a fine line because you know it's good. Like free speech is obviously the thing America's all about. That's the Constitution and stuff like that. But at the same time, like the people in the chat would swear up and down, "I'm for free speech. I'm for it." But at the same time, we censor the hell out of people coming in this live chat talking about Russia's great and also saying things like free Palestine and stuff like that. They come in like supporting the terrorists, and everybody's like, "Get rid of them now!" And then they're like, "Free speech."
Yeah, and then also there's another thing. We end up getting rid of people from our live chat who are just absolutely insane. Like there are some absolute plonkers out there, like Matthew said here in the house a few days ago.
Plonker.
There are some absolutely crazy people out there, and we just end up getting rid of them out of the chat just because they're insane, and they either don't get along with any of y'all or they're going after us like some kind of a serial stalker.
I like to preserve free speech instead of practice free speech. I like to preserve it. Like a good jam, like the Russians, they preserve that good old pig snout. We're preserving that good old free speech.
Yeah, and it is what it is, and we try our best, but at the same time, if y'all like how our live chat is and how our community is, that means you are a little bit of a proponent of regulation because we actually regulate heavily who is and who is not in our live chat. There's a lot of people who've ended up getting banned. I think our ban list is like hundreds, if not at least over 1,000 people long, people who have been banned out of the live chat. But anyways, moving on from that side note, because that's just a side note, we're now moving on down into the area of Volkhedar, where we got to see, in this area, some Russians getting destroyed. Here's the clip. I don't know why I zoned out right there, but here's the clip. Ooh, we got that little intro. I like it. And we got classical. Man, if only we could play it. Aw, man. Well, we can see the 70 seconds showing what's going on in the area. We see some burning Russians.
I see some folks in the chat saying, "Man, I'm hearing all the voices." You should only hear one voice. If you're hearing more than one, you're in trouble.
Oh, and I gotta tell you. Someone said, "What's wrong with saying free Palestine? They want to be free. Seems to be reasonable." That's a good question. I mean, what's wrong with, what's wrong with saying Hitler's little chant then, He just wants people to say it. What's wrong with that? There you can make it.
Exactly.
It's like Joseph Stalin just wants you to say glory to the Soviet Union. Sounds like a reasonable statement. What's wrong with it? A lot's wrong with it.
Yeah, well, when you start realizing that free Palestine means go and kill innocent Israelis, it means a totally different thing.
No, when it means go and kill the Jewish people, that's the thing where the line is crossed. It's exactly what the Nazis said. What didn't the Nazis say something about glory to the fatherland? We're going to make Germany. We're going to return Germany to its original roots, and then that ended up meaning entirely we must kill Jews alone, really, and also Eastern Europeans. Didn't that mean the same thing? I mean, I feel like we all had
said they wanted living space, and that was code word for we're going to wipe a bunch of people out.
Oh yeah, a lot of people out, and then the rest of them that we allow to live, they'll be slaves on their own land. So just because there's a phrase out there that can be said does not mean it's a good phrase. That's just my opinion on it. And we can see the little bomblets finding their targets, hitting them well. Ooh, man, they getting some light shows out here. I like it. I like it. I got to say, they got some flair. I don't know why I had to do that.
This is like a Horseshoe Bend or something right here.
Man, this looks like Andrew Jackson's about to be fighting at Horseshoe Bend. I'm not going to lie.
No, Stonewall. They call him Stonewall.
Man, his dumb ass got shot by friendly fire. He sat there and said, let's back up, guys. And then they started backing up. Hey, look, it's the enemy. And then they hit him. But anyway.
That's the day he went from Stonewall to Softwall. Real quick.
That's the day he went from Stonewall to Deadwall. But anyways, moving on from that, we also got to see a before and after of a BMP-3 that was in the area of Volodar. Look at that. Look at these Russians all on top of their little BMP-3. Man, you know what?
Look at that flag, though.
Man,
you see that?
I'm telling you, man, they be flying that victory flag like never before seen, man. I mean, I'm telling you, it's pretty wild. But you know what the next picture is? That's the exact same BMP-3. You can see the same writing here on the back of the hull, right there, and right there.
Oh yeah.
Same one. It got wiped out in the area around Volodar, and I got to tell you, I love to see it. You know, Matthew, I love to see it. Don't you love to see it?
I love to see it.
I love to see it. Love to see it. And moving on from that into our next clip, we also got to see the 72nd hitting more Russian forces in the area. Y'all know y'all haven't had enough of this. Okay, we got demons whispering in the microphone. Dude, when I said when they say, "What's your medical condition?" It's like, oh, okay, he's crazy. Oh, I got that good stuff that you want. Okay, it's not Epijiwa. Okay, Epijiwa was funnier. But anyways, but you see the drone.
That's like what a drug dealer asks you or something when they're in the back alley. I got that stuff you want. I got that stuff you want.
it's say what? Man, when you're schizophrenic. And you haven't taken your meds, a little demon comes crawling out of the wall going, I got that good stuff you want. It's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? But anyway, so you can see the drone hitting the mortar pit.
Somebody out in the audience just said, well, sorry, what did you say? And they turned to look behind them and said, is that my second or third voice out there?
Hello? Hello? Anyone out there? Hello? But anyways, moving on from that, nice to see the 72nd giving it to the Russians. And I got that good stuff that you want. But moving on from that into Staromyorsk, we also got to see some trenches in the south and what they're looking like right now. Okay, we're going to be muting that. But we can see the trenches, you know, pretty normal stuff.
For a second there, I thought the Israelis were starting to incorporate Middle Eastern music into the war footage. I was about to say they're going all in on the Israel collaboration. Man, they are, man.
Oh man, big fish out of water to have copyrighted my inner demons. So, you know, I guess if your inner demons ever travel anywhere, they just get cease and desist letters every time they pop up. You know, they're just a little magical cease and desist that appears. But anyways, moving on from that, interesting to see the trenches at this time of year. It is the most wonderful time of the year. And we're now going to be moving on to Verbove, where we got to see some Russian forces getting smacked around a little bit. It was a little bit. Look at this. Do we have music? No, we don't. Do we have Russians? Yes, we do. And it calls
Russian
them
barbarians.
Dude, these guys literally went whole Roman right here. They went, those filthy barbarians. It's like, damn. But we can see them lining up the bomblet on these filthy barbarians. They actually looks like they're trying to
carrying a guy on a stretcher.
Man, they are, man. But, you know, the Ukrainians say they'd rather see 6 get carried than 12 walk out. But that's about to happen. And there goes the bomblet. Ooh! Right on the front of the lead. Ooh. Ooh. Man, I guess they are living up to the phrase, they'd rather be carried by 6 than judged by 12. I don't think they were getting carried by 8.
I hate to ask, but isn't that technically against the rules of war to hit them while they're carrying off a wounded?
Nah, it's not. Both sides have been doing this for years.
Damn.
It's brutal. I mean, the rules of war, they protect people a good bit, but they don't protect them in that instance. I really don't know why, but I did look into that a while ago, and it just turns out, nah, you can get them perfectly fine, no problem at all. It's fair play, it's fair game. But anyways, moving on from that, we also got to see an M88 recovery vehicle trying to move around a Bradley, a damaged Bradley. And we can hear the picnic music playing. This is the song you hear whenever you bring your family out for a family function at the picnic. Abnormally. And we can see this one had the brought armor package. Pretty cool. Pretty neat. Hopefully he'll be back in action soon. You see they took off the back door. And we now see them winching that thing up onto a truck. But that's the end of that little clip right there. Y'all know we like to see Bradley getting repaired and put back in action. And with that, it's now time for us to move on from this little bit of this place of the news that we call Ukraine. And it's time for us to move on into part two. Part two. It's time for us to move on into this. By the way, I know that we haven't gotten to a question segment yet. We're just going to be knocking out all of the questions at the end of the news. So just hang tight, everyone. If you are looking for questions and you are looking to be recognized for your support that you've given to the fundraiser, it will be coming around the corner. It's just that we're going to make sure to knock out all the news and then move into the next segment. And so, moving on into the Middle East. Some of y'all may be happy to hear there has been another U.S. response today. The U.S. has conducted an airstrike on Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps bases around the town of Al-Bukamal. This is right on the Iraqi border, in between Syria and Iraq. You wouldn't believe it, but being near the Iraqi border means that you're very close to Iraq. But nevertheless, this is kind of the general area where the strikes occurred. We don't know exactly where. There wasn't a lot of information given. The U.S. Department of Defense is not as forthcoming with information as the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense is as far as the war is going up there. But we did see that the report was made today by Visegrad 24. And I got to say, Matthew, they're very Visegrad. And I got to say, Matthew, with as visible as Visegrad 24 makes the news, it makes me very Visegrad. But we can see here a picture of an F-15. This appears to be an F-15C flying through an area of the desert, probably in the Middle East. But this is probably not the F-15 that conducted the strike. It's most likely an F-15 or something along those lines. But moving on from that, it is nice to hear that there is a U.S. response again today, although we don't know what kind of damage was caused. We have been hearing that war in between Israel and Lebanon is getting even closer and closer. U.S. diplomats are getting very concerned that the war may start to expand on into Lebanon, considering that Hezbollah continues to operate from within the territory, and Israel seems pretty adamant on making some kind of an official armed response or an armed incursion into Lebanon to stop Hezbollah attacks. It does seem as though U.S. politicians and diplomats are getting somewhat concerned about the realistic chance that that may start to happen. Moving on from that little bit of news and into our next bit, we did get to see that the IDF was still conducting strikes against targets inside of Lebanon today, which we saw here in this clip. We can see here the strikes that the Israelis conducted, hopefully successful against Hezbollah targets. Moving on from that and into our next bits of news along the northern Israeli border, we did hear that the Israeli Defense Forces have been reporting of a higher level of attacks occurring along the northern Israeli border than normal. According to the IDF today, 15 launches from Lebanon were identified in the past hour. The IDF aerial defense array intercepted 4 of these launches, with the rest falling in open areas. 7 IDF soldiers were wounded as a result of mortar shell launches, and they are now striking with artillery towards the origins of those launches. It does appear that the IDF is starting to get more heavily involved in the northern border area, much more so than the Israelis actually expected, although for a time it was believed that Hamas and Hezbollah would both directly be fighting a war against Israel at the same time. That never really came to fruition, luckily for the Israelis. But it does seem as though it's slowly starting to happen as time keeps progressing. Moving on from that and into our next bit of news, Global Military Info on Twitter put out some information today that per In12, the IDF is preparing to launch extensive strikes on Hezbollah in response to recent attacks. The strikes are expected to be significant, so steps are underway to prepare for the possibility of rocket fire from Lebanon towards north and central Israel. Overall, the IDF estimates that the war in the north is inevitable at this point. And it does seem as though everyone in the world, the Israelis, the Lebanese, the Americans, the Europeans included, are all seeing that this is probably going to start extending into a war that will encompass Lebanon, just due to heavy Hezbollah activity within the area of the southern part of the country. Moving on from that, we also saw that Hezbollah had continued to target IDF forces today, targeting one under a tree with a guided missile. Here's the clip. Man, they're hitting us with the action music today. They're acting like this is Marvel or something. We can see the stupid 7-Up looking AK logo popping up at the bottom. We can see the bush. That is not the bush. That is just bush. But we can see that
that bush looks awfully suspicious, though.
Fool me once, shame on you.
It looks like it's about to get up and walk off like a cartoon with legs, like, and just pick itself up and go and walk off.
It kind of does look like that. I'd agree.
When bushes look like they're about to get off and, run off and stuff like that. Bad phrasing, by the way. They got to watch out for them.
You know what they say, Matthew. Oh. Well, let's hold off on that. Let's hold off on saying anything. It appears that the Hezbollah missile ended up hitting the bush. We don't know what kind of damage was actually caused under the bush, but it does appear that most of the foliage may have been blasted off in the hit.
Let's call this bush George.
Damn, bro. A little on the nose with that, aren't we?
What you mean?
Man, I mean, bush and then something blowing up. I mean, what the hell are you trying to do? Reference a rat?
No, nothing like that.
That's a little crazy, I'm not going to lie. And John said we saw this clip yesterday. No, you didn't. We didn't see no bush getting hit yesterday. And we see a fire started under it as well.
Man, that's kind of crazy. That was a nice, thriving bush for a long time, and then all of a sudden, just boom, Hezbollah and the 7-Up gang destroyed it.
Man, I got to tell you, Hezbollah and the 7-Up gang, they're brutal against the bushes, man. They hate foliage. But moving on from northern Israel and down into the south, we got a very interesting video that came out just today, but it is from weeks ago, near the very beginning of the incursion that Hamas made into Israel, that shows the Israeli police fighting against Hamas fighters who barricaded themselves inside of a house. I don't really know what's up with the person in the bottom left, but they're there throughout most of the video. You see the Israeli police here moving through the area. I think. Actually, I think that's Hamas. I can't really tell at the moment.
Damn. That's a sign language interpreter, I guess, on the bottom.
Man, I wonder what the sound for firefights is, like a finger gun? I don't know. But anyways. Now we see the Israeli police showing up. We know that is the Israeli police.
באותו בוקר בשבת השחורה התעוררה אריאלה אלבז בביתה באופקים כמו כולם מהאזעקות, אבל בתוך זמן קצר...
Man, they got a narration here. I don't even know what they're saying.
מהגג הזה הם קפצו לפה ובאו אליי, נקשו
I just realized this is an entire news excerpt. So we're going to cut that there. But still, very interesting to see the Israeli police in action dealing with Hamas fighters that had made it all the way to Ofakim. That's pretty far inside of Israel and not that far away from Be'er Sheva, which is the very edge of the military administrative zone in this part of the country. But moving on from that and into Gaza itself, we've gotten a lot of videos and clips today, just a general montage. There wasn't really a discernible moment that was major news inside of Gaza today. It's just ongoing fighting. But nevertheless, we will take y'all through the clips. Starting off with an interesting one showing a Hamas fighter trying to approach the border fence, and it appears that the border fence was a little snappy today. There he is. He's dragging his AK along the ground. And he's going, oh, I'm going to go to this fence here. And then the Israeli said, no, you ain't. And then this happens. And he ain't going to the fence no more.
Yikes.
Yikes. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Ay caramba. But we can see here another Hamas fighter trying to get to the fence.
The Israelis ought to hook up one of those like solar powered like cowl things to the fence, so that way if you touch it, you get shocked.
Yeah, I mean they could do that, you know, but I
Yeah,
feel like
those things hurt.
I feel like
But turn up the voltage a little bit.
I feel like the method they're doing right now, though, Matthew, is pretty effective. I mean, you know, they're not touching that fence again. I'll tell you that.
I could save money by hooking up the cowl thing.
Maybe. I'm not ruling that out. But moving on from that and into the area of Beit Hanun, we also got to see the Israelis demolish some buildings that were on the very edge of the town and were considered to be a defensive strong point that Hamas could possibly use. And we
Whoa!
Whoa! But anyways, nice to see them, of course, taking care to make a strategic, a protective zone around their camp. And moving on from that and into the area of Beit Lahia, we also got to see that the IDF is claiming, and what? The post has been deleted. What? The IDF removed the post. It was talking about Hamas using ambulances as transportation, which they have been able to confirm pretty extensively at this point. Moving on from that and into the next bit of news in the area of Atatra, we also got to see that Israeli forces were just hanging out in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. Here's some pretty cool pictures of that. We can see Israeli soldier here in between the two APCs. Forgot the names of these things again. I am so sorry, everyone. But, the Namers. We can see him walking around in between the Namers. There was also some additional pictures here of the IDF advancing through the sands in the north. We can see them around the beach, most likely Sikkim Beach. This could really be any beach at this point. We can also see a Merkava Mark IV-M moving around near the beach as well. And then we can see some Israeli soldiers taking shelter on the side of a Namer in between a wall. But still, some pretty interesting pictures just showing the IDF in action in this area. And moving on from that and into our next bit, we also got to see some APCs moving around just a little bit through the area. It was pretty neat. Look at them go.
The back of the tank says, "Hey!"
Damn. And those are the ends of those clips, but just showing a little bit of action in the area. Moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see that the IDF has entered the Al-Shadi camp, and it does appear that while they were sparing the Al-Shadi camp for a little bit, it does appear that they're now going to move in and directly occupy that part of the town, so that way they can prepare to try and move further inside of Gaza and have actual physical control of all areas. Moving on from that and into our next bit of news in the area of Ramon, we did get to see a building getting hit pretty heavily by a tank, most likely because there was Hamas positions inside the building. This occurred in the middle of the night, so you're not really going to see much, but here it is. I mean, what a hit. That's the end of that clip. Pretty nice to see the tanks doing their business. And moving on from that, we also got to see something really interesting today that kind of goes against the Hamas story that's being put out. Many of y'all know that Hamas likes to put it out that the Israelis are bloodthirsty and they just love to, like kill people for no other reason rather than they can. That's something that we haven't really seen that's true through this entire incursion that Israel has made into the Gaza Strip. We've seen them open up a humanitarian corridor. In a moment, we'll be going over the tactical pause that they did for the first time ever today to try and allow people to leave the city of Gaza. And we also saw, by a video put out by the IDF, Israeli soldiers making their way to the Shifa hospital to provide it with fuel because Hamas wouldn't provide the hospital with fuel. The hospital has been completely without fuel since the beginning of hostilities on the 7th of October, and the first fuel supplies it's ever receiving since then are from the Israeli army. So here's the clip. You see them taking the fuel canisters to the generators at the hospital so that way an electrical supply can be made for medical operations. We see them showing the gas cans right here that they're loading into the back of the hospital. We can see them taking them out of the back of Merkavas, as well as Namer APCs. Overall, it's nice to see that they are taking efforts to ensure the humanitarian side of things is taken care of while an active war is going on. Moving on from that into our next bit of news on the southern hook of the Israeli advance, we got to see the IDF in Gaza in this area as well. You see, the general things going on. And that's seen in the clip, but, showing just some general Israeli activity. Moving on from that and into the next bit of news, inside of the middle of the city of Gaza, we got to hear of the first tactical pauses being initiated by the Israeli Defense Forces today. We can see that these pauses in combat expand to the old city, Al-Jadida, Daraj Tufa, Rauda, Al-Nada, Jabaliya Camp, Kafar Jabaliya, and Mulan Esba. These areas had 4-hour pauses instituted in the fighting today, so that way people could try and leave the area through the evacuation corridor at the Salah al-Din Road and also Al-Rashid Road. Moving on from that and into one of our last clips, we also get to see more IDF strikes occurring within the city of Gaza, which should be getting the idea across to civilians that they should be leaving during these pauses. But here's the clip. We see them continuing to hit claimed Hamas sites and targets.
Boom.
Man, I gotta say,
and look, it's one guy walking down the street.
J-Dam.
Look, one guy.
That's a J-Dam.
Damn.
Oh man, the Israelis' response to everything is a J-Dam. I don't know what is up with that. It's just insane.
There was 2 people there that used one bomb on one person.
I don't know
Damn,
what
the hell was that?
I don't even know.
A nuke? That was like a 10,000 pounder or something.
It's insane to watch what kind of bombs they use. It's just nuts. It's the craziest things. But we can see them just, oh my god,
like
what is that?
Like one, damn, look at that go. Kind of like me in the chat whenever there's a bot that shows up, let's put a 2,000 pounder on them and they're gone. Banhammer.
Man, those bots are still showing up, man. They got nothing better to do than in their lives. Boo hoo hoo. Very sad. Maybe one day they'll get a job. But anyways, moving on from that. That's the end of the clips that we got from in the middle of Gaza today. And that's really all the news we got from the Middle East for the most part. So, oh yeah, I forgot. We did get a video of the Houthis shooting down an MQ-9. Djibouti? Oh man.
That's where all the service people talk about going, yeah, you want to go see Djibouti? And everybody's like, what? No. Man, nobody wants to see that.
Djibouti. Yeah, but also, you know what's weird is that the Chinese People Liberation Army has a camp here at Djibouti. It's like one of the few overseas camps they have.
I guess all the countries want a piece of Djibouti.
Oh man, don't do them like that.
That was actually not supposed to be a pun, but it turned out to be one unintentionally.
Man, that was brutal. But also another interesting thing about Djibouti is that it's actually a country that's sole purpose is to be a gas station. Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah, that's really the only way the country exists, because before that, the population of Djibouti was non-existent. But as military started to set up bases in the city of Djibouti, because it's unholy easy to just buy a lease to set up a military base in their country, pretty much everyone's just started to use it as a gas station. And that's how it ended up existing in really any meaningful way economically, is that it's a gas station for most major militaries around the world as they get from point A to point B.
So that's what our military says when they're like, oh, we need some gas for the boat. Oh yeah, where are you going to get gas? Djibouti.
Man,
okay. Let's stop by Djibouti. Let's check it out.
Dude, here in a little bit, they're going to overthrow the government in Djibouti, and it's going to be called Yo Mama. You're like, where do we get some gas, Yo Mama? Man, I was deployed to Yo Mama. But anyways, moving on from that, it's time for us to get into the MQ-1 Predator getting shot down by the Houthis. Because everybody loves the stupid name, the Houthis. But here's the missile. And they're playing the bass. Like, they aren't playing. But there's the MQ-1. It's about to get hit. Blink, and it hits. And then we get a second view.
Hey, that's ours, isn't it?
Yeah, that's ours, Matthew. That's ours. Now you see them spiraling to the ground. Man, terrible.
Oh, hell no. They're rubbing in our face, too, putting videos out and bragging about it.
Man, I gotta tell you this, man. They might be Houthis, but what we're about to bring down on them is going to be like Djibouti. I mean, it's going to be no joke.
Too bad it wasn't actually going to be a severe punishment. We'll probably just let it go and do nothing. But maybe hopefully one day we'll do something major.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day we'll show these Houthis a lesson. But for now, they get to do their Houthi things. I don't really know how to make a joke on the name Houthi, but we'll figure something out eventually. Anyways. Moving on from the Middle East, it's now time for us to return back to Ukraine and into Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 627 of the war in Ukraine. And he's got a good speech. So, without further ado, bada boom, bada bing, we better get into this speech and put y'all in a beach.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки. Щоразу, коли завершується ще один тиждень війни, нашої оборони, наших активних дій, важливо сказати одне. Подякувати кожному і кожній, хто захищає нашу державу і дає можливість Україні бути дійсно Україною. Собою, живою і сильною країною. Важливо подякувати усім, хто б'ється заради держави, усім, хто допомагає битись, хто захищає інтереси України у світі, усім, хто тренує наших воїнів, хто лікує, хто розвиває нашу бойову медицину і наше воєнне виробництво. І забезпечення наших людей, забезпечення усім необхідним. Ми маємо завжди розуміти, як багато людей залучені до захисту України і українців. І кожен з цих людей важливий. Усі разом є українською силою. Передусім це наші воїни. Ті, хто фізично стримує ворога, хто знищує окупанта, хто захищає від російських ракет і дронів. І сьогодні я хочу особливо відзначити підрозділи нашої Національної гвардії України, які воюють разом з усіма силами оборони та безпеки. Воюють сильно, міцно, воюють результативно. Я дякую вам, воїни, 3 та 14 бригади оперативного призначення Нацгвардії, які б'ються у наступальній операції на півдні. 12-та бригада Нацгвардії – це східний напрямок. Хлопці тримають позиції, захищають кожен метр української землі. Дякую вам за силу, дякую за відбиття російських штурмів. 4-та бригада оперативного призначення Нацгвардії воює на Бахмутському напрямку. Я особливо вдячний артилеристам та зенітникам 4-ї бригади. Ви молодці. Та, звичайно, Авдіївський напрямок, там разом з усіма нашими воїнами героїчно воюють бійці підрозділів спецпризначення Нацгвардії. Дякую вам за вашу стійкість, хлопці. Також важливо пам'ятати про воїнів і підрозділи Державної прикордонної служби, які так само разом з усіма воюють у складі Сил оборони, на лінії фронту, а також бережуть наш кордон, гарантують безпеку прикордонного руху. Про них дійсно не часто говорять, але вони теж молодці. Донеччина, Авдіївський напрямок, дякую воїнам Житомирського прикордонного загону. Особливо відзначились старші сержанти Назар Сірий та Сергій Соложук. Лиманський напрямок, дякую хлопцям з Ізмаїльського прикордонного загону. Та особлива подяка головному сержанту Олександру Адмажову та старшому сержанту Юрію Панасенку. Дякую за хоробрість. І спецпідрозділ «Дозор» виконує завдання на різних напрямках. Я дякую усім вам, хлопці. А також відмічу прикордонників Сумського загону. Дякую за захист від диверсантів та за збиття російських дронів. Ми пройшли вже майже половину листопада і маємо бути готовими до того, що ворог може збільшити кількість ударів дронами чи ракетами по нашій інфраструктурі. Росія готується до зими. І у нас в Україні уся увага має бути зосереджена на захисті, на відповідях терористам, на усьому тому, що Україна може зробити, щоб полегшити нашим людям проходження цієї зими та збільшити можливості наших воїнів. Я дякую всім нашим партнерам, які допомогли Україні з ППО. Це різні країни. Сполучені Штати, Німеччина, Франція, Британія, це Норвегія, Італія, це Румунія, це Швеція, Нідерланди, Словаччина, це Чехія, Болгарія, Польща, держави Балтії, інші країни. Петріоти, Насамси, Айріси, Рейвени, Хокі, інші системи. Не про все зараз ми можемо говорити відкрито, але український повітряний щит вже сильніше, ніж торік. Вже інші можливості, але ще не повний захист всієї території, на жаль. І ми працюємо, щоб зробити його ще більш сильним. Кожна країна, кожен лідер, які допомагають нам посилювати ППО, допомагають захищати життя. Я закликаю всіх українців, українок, усіх тих, чий голос у світі чують, наших журналістів, усіх тих, хто підтримує Україну у світі, допомагати, посилювати захист, допомагати. Ми здатні проходити найскладніші випробування, але разом, у єдності, коли дбаємо про одне одного. І коли мільйони людей допомагають своїм захисникам, захисницям та своїй державі бути єдиними і бути вдячними. Це обов'язково. Слава нашому народу, народу України. Слава Україні!
And Herom
Herom
Slava.
Slava.
And Herom Slava. And the most importantly, Herom Slava. And with that, oh, wait, hang on. Hold up, your stream has been temporarily blocked because we detected video belonging to someone else. If you plan to continue, more info. What the hell's going on here? Hold up. Wait a minute. What the hell is this? Hang on, Matthew. I gotta look into this here real quick. Oh God. Well, it's not saying anything there. What the hell is it talking about? What a bunch
Our
of...
stream's like not showing to the audience, apparently. Nobody can see it.
What? What the hell? So they just cut us off like that? Are you kidding me? That's absolutely ridiculous. What is... It's not saying what the video is either. Let's see here.
What kind of dumbass stuff is this that YouTube's pulling? I mean, this is some stupid stuff. If you're going to pull a stream for some reason, at least give some due process and tell us what it is. I mean, this is some really pitiful doings on YouTube's part.
Yeah, look at that. And, you know, people don't know what's going on. We don't really know what's going on either. And I'll just read it to y'all. I don't know if y'all can hear what we're saying. This seems like some of them can. But let's see. It says... Your stream has been temporarily blocked because we detected video belonging to someone else. If you plan to continue, please ensure that the content owner has added your channel to their allow list. But the problem here is that every time I'm trying to figure out more information, it doesn't give us any information as to who may be claiming anything. Like, it says on the actual, like, list, it says visibility public, monetization off, restrictions none. But then in the control room, it's saying this. And then when I click more info, it's... you know, there's nothing there. And also, I'm noticing, Matthew, that the bots are rolling in literally at the exact same time. Do you notice that?
Somewhat, barely. But can people still hear us?
Let's see.
Because, like, it seems like people can hear us, but they can't see anything.
Okay, now
people are saying no sound.
Now it's saying your stream is no longer being blocked due to copyright issues. What is this bullshit? What in the world is YouTube doing?
I mean, YouTube needs to get a grip. Like, they can't just cut people off in the middle of a stream. It's like, if we have a problem, deal with it after we're done and send us a notice or something. Don't just cut us off without... So they made a mistake, apparently, and now they've unblocked it. So, well, you know, that's just a pitiful way to run a business.
Yeah, just make sure to put in on the, you know, live chat, refresh your stream or whatever, because let me go see what YouTube sent in the email. Let me see if they sent any additional bullshit. Let's see here. No, they didn't. They didn't send any additional bullshit. And then they go, oh, look, there's no problems. They do that after 1 minute. That tells me that was probably some deliberate attack by the assholes we just saw in the live chat. But I gotta tell you what, man. Oh, look, now I see it. Now I see it, Matthew. It literally popped up. Here, I'll show you the control room. Look at this. That's what was showing to our viewers for like a whole minute. This.
Stream suspended for policy violation. But, okay, now this is the stupidity of YouTube. I got to gripe for a minute about YouTube. There was no policy violation because they just undid it. But yet they went ahead and took action based on a real policy violation that never occurred. And tell me how that makes any sense.
I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. If y'all don't like YouTube, I don't really like him much either. I gotta be honest with y'all. And to be entirely honest with y'all, that is getting to the point that I think I might be annoyed enough we might actually start changing the way we monetize our channel to the point that we may start looking at how to cut YouTube out of 30% of super chats, because they're going to allow stupid stuff like that to happen. And also they are continuously going after our channel for just trying to cover the news like we always have. They've been kneecapping our viewership on our videos. Every single one of them is getting less views, and they're on the same stuff they've always been on. If they're going to sit there and start trying to cut off our streams in the middle of them just to mess with us and to mess with all of y'all, I don't think YouTube deserves 30% of a super chat. I don't think they do at all. We don't run ads anyway, so they don't make any money off of our channel that way. But this is really just absolutely infuriating, absolutely stupid that they would pull something like that in the middle of the live show. We show videos that are allowed. That's what we show. And also, someone said, it's funny that they won't punish Sniper Wolf for doxing people. Yeah, it's funny. They won't punish anyone for doxing anyone on their platform. We've been doxed many times before. YouTube won't do anything about physical, real doxing. But you know what they will do? They'll sit there and they'll screw with us for no reason at all. That's the most annoying thing ever. It's stupid. It's absolutely the dumbest thing. And I'm trying to figure out how to even move forward from there, because seeing that pop up in the control room is just unbelievable. And you know, I guess it is what it is at this point with YouTube. And you know, I don't know. What is your take on this, Matthew? What is your take?
Personally, me, people have recommended in the past that we look into things like Streamlabs and other alternatives to giving YouTube their 30% like you were mentioning. Now I'm really going to look into it, because since YouTube is going to play games now and do stupid stuff like that. And, you know, to be honest, it probably wasn't anything necessarily targeting us. That's just YouTube's messed up policies. The way they handle stuff is really strange and really messed up. It's not professional, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like the way we've dealt with any situation dealing with YouTube, it's always been just screwed up. No due process whatsoever. They just arbitrarily do stuff. If they're punishing you, they don't really give you a detailed reason for why they're doing so. It's real automated and disconnected. And for YouTube to be getting 30% of everything we've made since the beginning of the channel until now, that is absurd to be operating like that.
Yeah, it's absolutely ludicrous, and it's something that we've said is an acceptable thing, that YouTube takes 30%. But I don't think it is anymore. I've got to be entirely honest with y'all. I don't think it is, because it's unfair, really, that we put in all of this work and all of this effort, and then YouTube comes down and is constantly trying to handicap us and just shoot our kneecaps out over everything. I mean, like, look at this. Like, tell me, YouTube isn't trying to just screw us over every given moment when they sit there and make literally every single stream we've run since the 29th of October, every single one of them has either had a copyright placed on them or they've been age restricted. And this is the same thing that we've been doing for years. Like, we haven't changed the way we cover news over 2 years. And now they're going to start doing this? Like, this is ludicrous. This is absolutely insane. And not only that, the videos are also getting hurt as well these days. I don't really know what to do anymore, because we can't move to Rumble. Because Rumble isn't a actual competitor to YouTube. Like, you know, a lot of people always want us to do that, but they're not really a real competitor. We've looked into that before, and it's just not really the same. It just annoys the hell out of me. And I see a lot of people saying YouTube apologize. They won't. YouTube is too stupid to apologize. It's too much to ask them to do that. We've been covering news on their platform for, you know, who knows, 2 years. We've raised nearly $1.25 million through their fundraiser system that they have built into their own program. You know, we've sat there and who knows how much they've actually made off of the channel off of super chats alone, just taking 30% of that. And then every chance they get, they just screw us over every single moment. And I see a lot of people saying launch your own website, but the thing is, there's no reach on a website like that, so we can't reach new people. You know, it's just so annoying. You know, it's just ridiculous. It blows me away. But anyways, we've got to move on because we do have questions to answer. We have polls to cover, and we have folks that deserve massive shout outs for putting in huge amounts of support to the fundraiser tonight and helping to save lives in Ukraine. And so, with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so first up, before we jump into our polls and questions, we have to go over our top donors of the night that we haven't gone over up to this point yet. And we're sitting at $5.5 thousand, which is about 500 above the goal. So we've done tremendously good tonight, and a huge shout out to everyone that has donated. We're going to call off the top donors of the night, but once again, all the donations mattered. They all added up to that $5.5 thousand figure. So a huge shout out to you all for that. And it does make a big difference. And Razum is also making a big difference in Ukraine as well, and it will be noticed. So, starting off with our first top donor of the night, we have a $333 donation from Hal Rose. That is the biggest one of the night thus far, and a huge shout out to Hal for that. We also have a $200 from Just Chillin', as well as Hal Rose yet again, who put in another $200, which brought him up to $533 in total. So a huge shout out to Just Chillin' and Hal once again. And also, shout out to BC Skyman, who put in a 120, along with Hal Rose, who put in another 100. Peter also put in 100. Peter. Then we have the Enforcer, who put in 100, along with Snow White, Eric Hutchins, Old Warrior, Axel K, Rumpelstiltskin, Gene Kustra, Trister1, Fred Von Hess, Patrick Mills, Trister1 yet again. Then we have another one from Trister1, so about 300 from Trister. Then we have a 100 from John Albrecht, a 54 from Paramecium 13. And then we have a 50 from Greg Carrier, Dad Good, Your Sparky, LSA Sergeant Figment, Plant Lady, Skip Tracer 007, Drunky Monkey, Renee Love, Sarter. Probably get choked up here. And then we have a 50 from M288, as well as DB, Razy Back, Plant Lady, Starter yet again, Boulder Boy, and James Roberts. And also, we just got a 50 pound from Butchie 777. And big shout out to you all once again for putting in those big amounts tonight, and we do appreciate it very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
I got to thank all of y'all so much. The folks we were able to call out and the folks we weren't able to call out for getting this fundraiser to where it is. It took every single one of y'all to get it up to nearly $5.6 thousand on the fundraiser. And I got to thank every single one of y'all for making that possible. The Lee Spring Army has never missed reaching a fundraiser goal. We have only, over the history of 2 years of war, missed one Sunday fundraiser, which was last week. And over all the fundraisers that we've ever run, we have never not hit a goal. I've got to thank all of y'all so much for making it possible again tonight to pass another fundraiser goal and to once again help save lives in Ukraine. No matter how annoying it is to deal with YouTube and everything else, the Lee Spring Army continues to march forward with the same determination that it always has been able to, and I got to thank y'all all once again for coming together tonight and helping this fundraiser out in such a massive way, because there are people whose lives will be changed from y'all's support, and while they may not know your names, y'all will know who did it, and it was you yourselves. And so with that, thank y'all all so much once again, and let's get on into them polls.
All right, and our first poll question is going to say, the U.S. says yesterday's Middle East crash was a refueling accident, and what are your thoughts? 49% said that sounds more believable, 22% said unsure, 20% said that still sounds like a cover-up to me, and 9% said it's 100% true, no doubt about it. And on that one, I would have to say that it's sounding a lot more plausible. Some people were saying yesterday that it sounded like maybe a cover-up by the United States. And at first, I was sort of leaning that way myself, but now hearing about the 5 servicemen lost in the accident, as well as the circumstances around it being refueling, which is very dangerous, and there's a lot of close calls that happen when they refuel these planes and jets, that sounds a lot more believable to me. And obviously, you know, they're not going to lie about 5 service members getting killed, because 5 families have now lost their loved ones, and they have to let them know as well, so they can't really make that up. So just an unfortunate situation all the way around. But on a positive note, if there is one, at least it wasn't escalation by one of these countries like Iran. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say it's unfortunate to hear about the crash. Of course, refueling is a dangerous thing, but, you know, It's a good thing it wasn't anything major or anything that was going to be escalating the situation in the Middle East. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next poll question says, is the U.S. proportionally responding to Iran-backed terrorist attacks on troops in the Middle East? And 48% said no, the responses are too weak. 31% said yes, the response is proportional. 11% said, not really, but close enough. And 10% said unsure. And to me, the responses are definitely too weak. To me, when we're attacked, with us being one of the most powerful countries in the world, we should not be responding in a weak fashion whatsoever. If one of our guys gets injured or hurt or killed, then we should come back 10 times stronger on the enemy. Because that is deterrence. It's how we prevent people from getting attacked in the future when we're overseas in the Middle East. And without that, the U.S. starts looking really weak. And although it is a safer way to go, it takes the risk of escalation down tremendously. It's inevitably going to cause more problems because people see us as weak. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that I think that we're not responding strongly enough as well. I'd have to agree with the majority of y'all. I think we should start to ramp up strikes against the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and maybe even against Iran itself to send a message that they need to back off completely. And if they don't back off, then we are more than happy to step up to the next level, which would be outright war. And so I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the last poll we have says the U.S. believes that Israel may be planning a false flag escalation to expand the war, and what are your thoughts? 40% said it's certainly possible, while 27% said, let's just wait and see. 23% said it's not a real possibility, and 10% said unsure. And even though I will say I do support Israel in this war because they were the ones that were attacked, their civilians were killed in that little attack that happened a while back, I wouldn't put it past Israel to try to do something like this, a false flag to expand the war, because Israel is seeing this as an all-out attack on their country, and they're also thinking about the future, and they're thinking they might want to go ahead and try to address multiple threats at once. And countries like Lebanon really haven't gotten involved to the extent that would warrant a full-scale response on their territory from Israel, but Israel might be wanting them to go ahead and jump in it so that way they can start taking care of that threat right now instead of waiting and letting it fester up like they did in Gaza and go ahead and tend to it now instead. That's just my line of reasoning on it. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say they probably are going to try and create a false flag to get involved in Lebanon. It does appear that that's probably going to be their go-to mode of operation at the moment. It's a bit of a negative, a bit of a plus for them. I guess they could try and get rid of Hezbollah, but the real honest answer is they would never really get rid of Hezbollah unless they occupied Lebanon indefinitely, which will never happen. So I would have to say they're probably going to do it, but it's not really going to achieve the goal that they're looking for if their goal would be to destroy Hezbollah. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and that was our last poll to address, so we're moving into our live chat questions, because obviously no super chats tonight. It is a fundraiser night, so we have about 15 live chats or so, and our first one is our Morse code decoders of the night. Tonight we had Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, also known as Old Scrolls, as well as Earl Bernew, Paul Schultz, Tightlines LSO, Kevin J., and Rumpelstiltskin. They said, the Morse code tonight says, Ukraine is opening a brand new front for an old and dying Russian army. Long live the LSA, Slava Ukraine, Slava Israel, and Slava LSA.
And that's the sound of money, and you all got that dead on the nail. That is the exact Morse code message of the night, and I gotta say, absolutely great to hear that y'all did get the Morse code message correct. The Ukrainians are opening up a brand new front line for an old and dying Russian army, and hopefully we'll get to see that it is something that the old and dying Russian army won't be able to handle. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and we're moving on to our first live chat question, which goes to Craig Alex, who says, hello guys, and hello to you, Craig. He says, do you think Russia planned all these conflicts in the world?
No. The Russians are not some kind of an all-wise and intelligent boogeyman. That was taught to us in Ukraine very well, is that they're very incompetent and quite stupid. A lot of these things are just kind of happening on their own. Like Iran started the terrorist activities against Israel. That was kind of isolated on its own. China and Taiwan are kind of isolated on their own in a bubble, and Russia and Ukraine are kind of isolated on their own in a bubble, at least as far as what led to all of these things heating up. They were completely separate sequences of events. So I would have to say, no, I don't think the Russians are like the master boogeymen of the world. It's just kind of that everything is heating up at the same time. Kind of like how Japan and Germany actually really didn't work together to create World War II. It's just that both of them had similar ambitions on other sides of the world at the same time, and that's what created the World War. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next question is going to go to Ronstadt. I can't remember if he asked this question last night, but I'm going to ask it again anyway because I don't recall addressing it. He says, do you guys think the volcano in Iceland is going to affect the Ukraine war when it erupts?
Possibly. We don't know how serious the volcano eruption is going to be. It could probably interrupt a lot of air activity, but beyond that, I couldn't really see it affecting much more on the ground, most likely. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And I also see people still asking in the live chat, Matthew, right now. They're like, what the hell happened to the stream? If you're at that point in the stream, it got cut off for like a whole 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. So, you know, I don't know how to get this message to you because you haven't gotten to this part of the stream, but just wait through it because we do come back after that because, you know, YouTube goes, man, we putting you down. And then they go, gee, psych. And then they lift it like 2.5 minutes later. But anyways, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next question goes to I Am Gift Bearer, who says, are there any updates on Ukraine getting some of those fighter jets, those juicy ones from the U.S.?
We have heard about it. They should be getting F-16 soon, at least by the very beginning of next year, and they're still on track to do that from what we've heard. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Nate, who says, is it possible that the United States possesses undisclosed advanced defensive technologies capable of intercepting and neutralizing large-scale nuclear attacks? I would say probably not.
Most likely not. I would have to agree with Matthew on that one. We probably don't have that technology. That's something we would probably make public as well, because it would start to make, nuclear weapons like the Russians have largely obsolete, and that would put them at a severe disadvantage. And that's something we wouldn't really be able to hide for that reason either. It would be something that would have to be publicly tested. You would have to have some kind of a suborbital test of this system, so that would be something that everyone would figure out pretty quickly. So I don't think we have a system like that.
Or actually, it might feel the enemy, like for example, Russia might feel inclined if they had something or knew that we had something like that. The United States might want to keep that secret, so that way the Russians didn't feel like they needed to speed up their nuclear development to try to, outpace it or outdo it or something like that.
I mean, true, but, at the same time, it would be very hard to hide testing something like that to make sure it is effective, because you would have to fire one of these missiles. Like, let's say it's like a Super Patriot. Let's just call it that. And it's a Super Patriot that can shoot down ICBMs. So you would have to launch like some kind of an ICBM test dummy at the United States, most likely from northern Canada, like the Hudson Bay or something, fire it at America, allow it to go almost into a suborbital trajectory back towards the United States, and then have this missile fire to intercept it, so that way you could see if it was working or not. That kind of test.
Let me tell you something. That little incident right there actually happened about a week or two back when we launched the Minuteman III. All of a sudden, it had a little problem and it blew up over the ocean. And they said it was a malfunction, but it might have been maybe the testing of something like that.
Well, I mean, it
kind of did that.
Well, I mean, you might be right, but anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Jeff Lieberman, who says, just how long does Ukraine have until the first heavy snow?
First heavy snow, it's probably going to start happening very soon. I would say maybe 2 weeks at the latest, because it's probably going to be happening either tomorrow or 2 weeks from now. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Tina Chop, who says, how many Russians have died in Ukraine, according to the Russians? And I can't seem to find good stats. Mucus gracias. I think she meant to say muchas gracias.
Yes, not mucus gracias. It's muchas gracias. But to answer that question, the Russians never really put out a number. The Ukrainians also never put out a number on Ukrainian dead either. So we don't know how many Russians the Russians say have died. I would assume that they're probably saying something like 10,000 or less, because they don't want to give a real number to the public. So with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Slim, who says, Russia has been rolling out World War II era equipment for the better part of a year, and how did they have any left?
Well, they have a lot of it left because they used to be the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union had a massive aversion to throwing anything away. And that went to the point of keeping things around that were clearly obsolete in large numbers well after it was completely useless. That's why you see a lot of things like DP-28s, Maxim guns, stuff like that just appearing all over the place, and there seems to be a never-ending supply, is because Soviet store yards just kept that stuff around, never really destroyed any of it, and it still is around to this day. So that's why they've been using a lot of older World War II equipment, or, you know, kind of like early Cold War equipment, is because there's just hundreds of thousands of examples, or millions of examples, that are still in storage throughout most of the former Soviet Union, both for Ukraine and for Russia. And so I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one is going to go to Marcia Tucker, who says 60 Minutes Tonight had a terrific segment on the cultural genocide RF is committing against Ukraine, the artwork, the museums, and the churches, and what UNESCO doing.
UNESCO is not doing anything about that. UNESCO is about as powerless as any real UN organization, and that's always why I find it so stupid that everyone's always like fighting to get on the UNESCO World Heritage Site list. It's just like, what does it do? I mean, it doesn't really do anything, and in a real situation where historical artifacts or buildings have to be protected, it does nothing.
They probably get access to that money, though.
It's more like the Michelin star list. They don't get any money either, from what I understand. In fact, you have to expend money to try and make sure that your historical objects are up to spec to be on the list, from what I understand with how the list works. It's a complete waste. Like, best example I can give for a UNESCO World Heritage Site that I'm just like, why? You know, it's like a waste, is Carnarvon Castle right here. It's one of the more striking and impressive castles in northern Wales. This is an UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's a little stupid because the city of Carnarvon has to put in all the money to maintain this thing, and not only that, UNESCO doesn't really do anything rather than put their name on the site. It's like a Michelin star. You know, Michelin company comes around and they give you a star. That's it. So UNESCO is doing nothing to protect any of the historical monuments, buildings, structures, artifacts, anything like that in Ukraine. They may as well be useless beyond just putting stuff on a registry and having a little list that everyone can look at every once in a while and try and get a vacation itinerary around. So with that, I hope that does address that, at least in my opinion, well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Magic Forest, who says, with Ukraine opening up another front so close to Crimea, do you think the Ukrainian forces will move into Crimea soon?
I have a feeling that it might not be soon, but it's certainly going to be putting a lot of pressure on the Russians from multiple directions that will probably start to move a front line towards Crimea. I've just got to be honest, though, that since the counteroffensive in the south went the way it did, and I know a lot of people are about to come in and go, oh, but it didn't go that badly. I'm going to be honest, it kind of did, because we were expecting that the Ukrainians would have at least made it to Tokmak, and the end goal of the summer offensive in the south was Melitopol. They didn't even make it to Tokmak. They're still about 9 miles away from Tokmak at the moment where the front line currently is sitting. So that offensive was honestly incredibly underwhelming. It's the first one we've ever seen that was underwhelming, in my opinion. And the big question is whether an offensive in this area would look like that or not. Because right now, it's got huge ambitions. You know, it's looking to move towards Crimea, specifically Armyansk, which is really the only solid ground in between mainland Ukraine and Crimea. We don't know if they're going to be making it down there quickly because, you know, who's to say somehow the Russians don't manage to just eke out a defense and the Ukrainians only make it down to Bralivka. You know, we don't really know. And so I would have to say, hopefully this would be getting them closer to Crimea, but we don't really know for certain because the summer offensive showed that there is a way, if the Russians had enough preparation and time, to actually manage something of a defense and at least ruin the actual offensive goals of Ukrainian offensive. We don't know if that will be reflected in Dnipro again, so at the same time, that's why I can't give a statement like, yes, they will make it to Crimea, because we really don't know. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next question goes to Native, who says, Enforcer, hey guys, and hello to you.
Hello.
They said, do you think the Ukrainians will now quickly switch full focus on retaking the dam and the bridge at the Novokhovka, the vital crossing point?
Sadly, there is no dam or bridge to really take at Novokhovka. It's more of just like an open hole in the dam. There's no bridge for them to use in the area, and there is no dam. So they could try and take it, but it wouldn't really mean much. It would really be like taking any other part of the open river in both banks, because they'd still have to ferry everything across by a boat, even in that area, because the bridge has ceased to exist about 6 months ago. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right. And the next one goes to Christian Cruz, who says the EU treaty have an Article 5, and it's called 42 Section 7. And if Ukraine can't join NATO, but the EU, it will have the same consequences for Russia. And thoughts? And are you sure about that, Christian? Because I could have sworn that the EU is more of an economic alliance than a defensive one.
I would have to agree. I think it's more of an economic alliance than a defensive one. Once again, I don't know everything about the EU charters, though, so I would have to look into that. But I don't think they would get those same protections from the EU, and that's why we've seen that Russia has never been as militant to Ukraine joining the EU as they are to NATO. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And where the hell did that poll come from? What the hell?
Let's see. Well, Matthew, you wrote it. I mean, what the hell are you talking about, man? We wrote it.
Man, I didn't write that. What the hell?
Man, you confused the hell out of me, man. What the hell do you mean?
But anyways, our next question goes to Bernard Rubin, who says, do you think if the Israeli property developer are going to turn the, let's see, do you think, let's see here. I'm trying to make sense. He says, do you think if the Israeli property developer are going to bomb the remains Gaza into, or turn it, let's see, I'm not understanding this question here. I think there's a typo in it. Do you think that if the Israeli property developer are going to turn the remains of Gaza into Jewish settlements, or does the joint government have strong grip on the leash?
I don't really think I'm understanding that question to be able to answer it. They're asking,
I'm having a hard time translating it, to be honest.
So what they're asking is that if the Israelis are going to come in and make like what Borat's version of like Jewtown? Like what's the real question here? I'm not really getting it.
Let's see here. I'm trying to read it again. For some reason, there's something about it that's not making sense in my mind. Let's see. I guess what his question's really asking is, does Israel intend on occupying or controlling Gaza after they take it? And then he brings in something about the Israeli property developers. I'm not sure how that fits in.
I'm going to be honest, I'm going to have to declare ignorance on that one because I'm not really getting the question well enough to be able to answer it. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Derek Rosefan, who says, what do you think will happen after the Gaza war? And I personally think there will be tons of terrorism and tons of death.
I don't think there's going to be tons of terrorism and death, but I certainly think it's going to be a tough time in Gaza for sure, because Israel is going to destroy Hamas. The Fatah is not going to get back in control of Gaza. There's going to be some kind of a governance that's made specifically for Gaza. It's going to be tailor-made for it, but we don't really know how it's going to work. We don't really know who's going to be in charge of the Gaza Strip beyond this point. So I don't think it's going to be a lot of terrorism and suffering. I think it's just going to be a lot of political and diplomatic instability within the Strip. I think that's most likely what it'll turn into for years. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
You know, really, though, in reference to Israel taking control of Gaza, I really don't understand. If Israel is going to go in and invade Gaza, and their goal is to, they say to eliminate the terrorists, but in actuality, they'll have to occupy it at least temporarily because they have to hold the land. But, you know, after they've supposedly wiped the terrorists out completely, which I'm not sure if that's going to be ever really completely possible, because they're always going to be there in some form or another. Israel really has to hold onto the land, don't they? Because if they don't, then there's going to be a power vacuum. Somebody's going to fill it, and it's probably not going to be the good guys filling it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They will have to occupy it for a while. It'll kind of be like how the U.S. occupied Iraq for a good bit. I believe we occupied Iraq well into like 2006 or 7, almost completely. Like we were really the only governing body in Iraq at all. And I think that's probably what we're going to see in Gaza for a good bit, maybe a year or two, until they're actually able to bring about something that they like. But we don't know what that will be at this point. Like, it's not even clear what this new governance of the Gaza Strip is going to be. One thing I'm pretty sure of, though, and it's been made quite clear, is that we're not going to see, I think what that question was trying to ask a little while earlier, Jewish settlers in northern Gaza. I don't think we're going to be seeing that. If you're talking about what's happening in the West Bank, that's almost entirely different. And they've made it very clear, like Netanyahu's made it very clear from the start, that's not going to happen in the Strip. So from what we know, it will remain entirely Palestinian, and Palestinians will be living within the Gaza Strip, but there's going to be an entirely new governance in a way that the Strip is run. And it's not going to fall back into the Palestinian civil administration. It's not going to fall back into Hamas control. It's going to be something else entirely. And it's not going to be under Israeli control either, from what we know, at least at the moment. But we don't really know how it's going to unfold.
I'm personally putting money on Israel's going to control it. And really, I'm not sure if that would be the worst thing in the world, because without somebody in there that has some authority and some power and a military to back up their statements, Gaza is going to be forever a place of, basically harboring terrorists. Because if you don't have a strong government and you have a weak one, the terrorists are going to come in because they're naturally going to overpower the civilians, and they're going to take it back over again.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's true, I suppose. But with that, we're on to the next one.
And we have one last question of the night. So, Enforcer, you're going to do the thing.
Oh, and so we are on to the final question of the night. So, who is the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And it is Derek Rosefan yet again. And he says, do you think that Syria will get involved to retake Golan? And if they do, what do you think the outcome would be?
Oh no, Syria is not getting involved to retake the Golan Heights. Syria is currently involved in the civil war of their own right now, and the Syrian military is so bad off, it's hardly even able to fight against the Syrian Democratic Forces or the Turks in the north. They can't really fight against anybody right now, so they're probably too tied up to really deal with the Golan Heights, so I feel like the Israelis will keep a firm grip of the Golan Heights well into the foreseeable future for now. And so, with that, I hope that does address that question fairly well, and we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I got to thank all of you all so much once again for watching and helping this fundraiser to get to where it is. We raised $5,610 for Razum For Ukraine. Actually, scratch that. We just raised $5,660 for Razum For Ukraine, and I got to thank all of you all so much once again for making this fundraiser possible and helping us to get to where we are. We passed the fundraiser goal again. It means a great deal to us. I hope you all enjoyed the Ukraine war news and the Israel news. Of course, if you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to tell YouTube to go, do something, like leave us alone or something along those lines. But nevertheless, I thank all of you all so much once again for watching. Good night. Good luck. Take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, God bless Israel, God bless America, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die, and also, I will see you all on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 48 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. Good night, and take care.
And good night, LSA. Thank you all for another great fundraiser. It's been tremendous, and we'll see you all on Tuesday night, and Slava Ukraine, and Slava Israel.
Yes. The Leaf